Okay, I just have to do a real quick follow-up to the last video on the 4.8 magnitude earthquake that hit the New York, New Jersey area on April 5th, 2024, around 10:23 a.m. according to official sources. What I didn't know when I made the last video is that this is the biggest earthquake to hit that area since 1884. Those of you who have watched the prior video will understand the weight of what I just said. If you don't understand the weight of it right away, you have some catching up to do, but I will try to explain it so you can understand it in a surface level way before you dive deeper into it. To start, this goes back to the 88 Facebook ads posted by the accounts of President Donald Trump, the Trump campaign, and Vice President Mike Pence in June of 2020. The ads featured an upside-down red triangle, a symbol used by the Nazi Party in World War II to identify political dissidents in concentration camps. This just so happened to coincide with an annular solar eclipse on the summer solstice a few days later. The first sentence of the 88 ads contained 14 words. 14 words, or the number 14, symbolizes a popular alt-right slogan, "We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children." 88 stands for Heil Hitler. H is the 8th letter of the alphabet. Together, 1488 are often used to signal allegiance to an alt-right group and the ideas of white supremacy. Obviously, right away, you have the glaring fact that 1884 has the 1488 within it. Also, incidentally, Donald Trump was 41 years old at the beginning of 1988. He was 41 years old in 1987 when he gave that first speech in New Hampshire. And then in the lead up to 1988 and his birthday, he would eventually turn 42. But that original speech he gave in 1987 that had the Trump 88 signs, he was 41 years old. Anyways, that's beside the point. On top of the fact that this was the biggest earthquake since 1884, the original U.S. Civil War was 1488 days. And that is probably where a lot of the 1488 comes from as it relates to these alleged alt-right white nationalist slogans that have roots in Confederate lore. But still, in the context of 2024 and this great American eclipse and the release of the Civil War film 4 days after it, and just the state of the country itself and what Donald Trump has been used to achieve within the agenda, he very much represents the idea of breaking the country apart. So what are the odds that a 4.8 magnitude earthquake occurs 3 days before the 4/8/2024 eclipse that Donald Trump is infused into, and it occurs within miles of his golf club when the last earthquake of this magnitude was 1884? 8814. The same amount of days as the Civil War, rearranged. Then Donald Trump, the lunar eclipse baby, born during a total lunar eclipse blood moon, is the moon child in the context of how they have positioned him within the collective subconscious to be the talisman with a magnetic gravitational pull that draws you in and makes you focus on it. It makes you feel something in whatever way you feel it, whether you love him or you hate him. Either way, he draws your attention. He pulls on the water in your body towards him. Likewise with your thoughts and your stream of consciousness. And the 8, going back to the analemma, is symbolic of the difference between solar time and mechanical time. The sun and the moon each have their own analemma. It's an 88 in the sky. Donald Trump, the Moonchild, Eclipse baby, represents the 88. That is the interaction between the sun and the moon, as seen through eclipses, and as seen through the way time has been attached to him, and how that gravitational magnetic pull that he has is designed to take us out of time, as it were. The end of the world as it existed prior to the introduction of technology, and how it is merging with our stream of consciousness in a way where time does not fit with our experience now, because our neuroplastic brains have rearranged themselves into a digital existence connected to the internet. In that context, Back to the Future has this idea that the time travel device has to get to 88 miles per hour in order for the time travel to take place, in order for the portal to another time to open, the wormhole, as it were, the black hole, which Donald Trump is likewise associated with here. The black hole that is his eyes, the gravitational pull that he has, due to the energy he was infused with as a moonchild. A ritual, symbolic creation that works within the dark matter of the collective subconscious. It makes contact with you through the wormhole that is the black hole of your pupil. And within the plot of Back to the Future, lightning has to strike the clock tower on November 12th, 1955, for that portal back to the future to be opened, for them to travel through. Obviously, 88 and 1004, if you take the zeros out of 1004, is the 1488. Or in other words, the 9/11 twin Donald Trump, to succeed in his role that I was just going into, the racist MAGA Hitler archetype, has to hit that combination of numbers 1488. In other words, they have to convince you that he is that thing in order for it to work within the larger agenda, in order for you to be convinced that there were insurrectionists at the United States Capitol in January of 2021. Right after the December 14th, 2020 eclipse, by the way. Which was also the day where they introduced the first non-trial mRNA shot. Because that COVID-19 pandemic played into this whole twin 9/11 ritual as it relates to what they wanted to infuse people's minds with regarding misinformation, racism, and all of that kind of thing that Donald Trump embodies via QAnon on the internet. The domestic terrorist conspiracy theorist president. So lightning has to strike the clock tower in the context of the ritual destruction of America. Having said all that, I cannot believe that this actually happened, but it did. And I will let you decide what it means. But crazy photos show boat sinking, lightning striking Statue of Liberty during wild New York storm on April 3rd, 2024 into April 4th that morning. So the night before April 4th, which was the day before the morning of this April 5th earthquake, lightning strikes the Statue of Liberty. And I have the pictures up here that are just unbelievable. I can't even believe the scene that is being set here by these pictures. Incredible scenes of the Statue of Liberty being struck by lightning with the American flag flying right next to it, symbolically showing you what this ritual that Donald Trump is involved in is designed to do. First of all, in terms of Donald Trump as currency exchange, the energy he represents that he's infusing into the country in a personified way, right? This lightning bolt might as well be a 9/11 lightning bolt personified via Donald Trump. It might as well have Donald Trump's face on it, hitting the Statue of Liberty. I mean, I guess you could make it an orange lightning bolt, and that would represent what's going on here. The orange man striking the Statue of Liberty. So on the night of April 3rd, 2024, in the context of everything else that is going on, the Statue of Liberty has the torch hit by lightning, and the movie that is coming out 4 days after the April 8th eclipse has this promotional material that is focusing entirely on the torch attached to the Statue of Liberty, except it has guns and barbed wire all around it in the context of a civil war. And just a few days before this movie will be released, and the April 8th total solar eclipse, you have lightning inexplicably striking the torch. And before getting to the shape of this other lightning bolt, I mean, the first thing that should come to anyone's mind is the guns in Ghostbuster that look exactly like this pink lightning bolt here. And yes, of course, the new Ghostbusters film was released on 3/22/2024, 1 day after Three Body Problem and Roadhouse. On 3/22, the same day as the Crocus Tenet shooting, in the lead up to the Baltimore Key Bridge collapse, the Francis Scott Key National Anthem collapse, again, Civil War, collapse of America, you have Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, referring, of course, to the same theme. The United States Empire is frozen via 3/22 and all the programming that's embedded along those lines as it relates to that date and that number. The lightning bolt looks very similar to what comes out of their guns that catch the ghosts or the disembodied spirits, whatever you want to call them. I have not seen this movie, but I would imagine there are themes along the lines that I'm describing here. And actually, a commenter pointed out to me an old promotional photo where there was a subconscious mushroom cloud in one of the scenes as well. That sort of looked like a vortex in the sky, very watery. Which goes back to that whole nuclear theme that's throughout all of this stuff. Sort of under the surface. But the other part of this obviously looks a lot like where the Nile River splits off. If you imagine this is the Nile and then it splits towards the top into two different tributaries or streams. And then more broadly, you can see the same fractal pattern down here where it hits the torch and it's splitting in the same way. Meaning, as it relates to the Great American Eclipse, crossing in Little Egypt, right above Cairo, Illinois, you have the Mississippi River splitting off into the Ohio River that goes up towards East Palestine, and where the April 8th, 2024 eclipse will sort of go over Lake Erie and Cleveland. And you can see that pattern here. If you imagine that this is the two eclipses crossing right here. This is the Mississippi River coming down, and then this is the Ohio River splitting off. And then you have the same pattern up here. This is the Mississippi River, and then this is the Ohio River. Do you see the similar pattern here where it's the V that comes off from Cairo, Illinois right here, which is where the two eclipses are going to cross each other. And then at the same time, this is the Nile River, where you see the two rivers that split off from this point right here. And obviously, Little Egypt, 618, is a very big thematic element of the Great American Eclipse, which then ties into the 2027 eclipse that will go over Egypt, the next series in this pattern. cross directly over the Nile River right below where it splits off near Cairo. Hopefully you can see that clearly now, where this is the two rivers splitting off here, and you can view that in a fractal sense, both in terms of what's going to happen April 8th in the United States of America in Little Egypt near Cairo, Illinois, and in terms of the Nile River and the next eclipse in 2027 that will likewise have an X formed when the second one comes in 2034, where that X is right near the edge of Egypt in the Red Sea. And hopefully you can see how East Palestine would be connected into the news cycle in the way that that derailment and toxic spill filtered into the water that is the Ohio River that came down and met with the Mississippi here. It came down and met where the eclipses will cross each other, and then you have the third eclipse on October 14th that crosses with the April 8th eclipse that transpired 7 days after the October 7th incident in Israel that started the Israel-Palestinian War. And East Palestine had all of that connection to white noise. The Hitler studies professor, because it was going to be drawing on those themes as it related to the larger narrative. That narrative, as it relates to 88 H.H. Trump, ties right into East Palestine white noise. And the alt-right white supremacist narrative as it relates to Nazis and anti-Semitism. Do you see how that's all connected? And then, of course, we're talking about a lightning bolt here in the context of Back to the Future and the role that 88 and Donald Trump is playing in this continuation of the 9/11/2001 ritual as it relates to the destruction of the United States of America. Symbolically, you have a lightning bolt striking the Statue of Liberty a few hours before this earthquake hits on April 5th, 3 days before 4/8/2024, right next to Donald Trump's golf course, which is so symbolic of his infusion into the narrative via Donnie Darko, where he is the literal 88. So you see, he's the 88 miles per hour. He's the lightning striking the Statue of Liberty 3 days before the Great American Eclipse on April 8th, 2024. Or put another way, when they are finished with the ritual, if it goes according to their plan, he will have symbolically destroyed the United States of America and what it used to be. Which then is why Leave the World Behind used the Last One Friends episode, which aired 2 days after a total lunar eclipse blood moon, as a main part of its plot, because that was symbolic of Donald Trump and how Donald Trump is woven throughout the entire cyber attack, all the events that lead up to it, and the characters figuring out what is going on. That total lunar eclipse resonance is the theme of Leave the World Behind, and it's the same theme as Out of Time from Back to the Future and The End of the World from Donnie Darko. It's Leave the World Behind. It's quantum jumping consciousness into something else. A different reality, a different form of perception. Or The Great Reset. Time magazine, right when a clock is blinking and needs to be reset, it's 4 zeros or 4 eights, depending on how the light hits it and how you look at it. The Great Reset of time involves the missing piece down here that is the Strait of Gibraltar, where the 2027 eclipse will pass through as it goes down over Egypt. And then, in terms of the Great Reset and time, you have the fractal that is Little Egypt, where these two eclipses pass each other in the United States of America. And given the region of the world that this is in and the United States' relationship to Israel, we can imagine how these two narratives will eventually sync up together like those two broods of cicadas. Right now, it's two separate time streams or parallel realities in the collective subconscious mind, but eventually they will sync up in some way that relates to the missing piece of the Great Reset and time in terms of the new reality, the standardized timeline via consciousness merging with the internet and fusing itself into that world. And then obviously the Statue of Liberty being struck by lightning is so interesting in the context of the storm it was a part of and the boats that were capsized and this tidal wave coming towards the Statue of Liberty and the torch here with the helicopter right next to it. Again, Donald Trump, I am Batman in his helicopter as it related to Matthew Perry's role in the ritual and Friends and Leave the World Behind and the whole thing in the context of an eclipse. The only thing missing here is the lightning bolt, but if you go with the idea that Donald Trump is this helicopter here, the X, the helicopter that took Diana Ross out of the Super Bowl halftime show with the 11-9 on it, the helicopter he said, I am Batman in, possibly relating to Kobe Bryant as well, this whole thing here next to the torch is really this picture, right? The lightning bolt striking the Statue of Liberty, infusing it with the currency exchange, a new energy that flips it into something else. And that's what Donald Trump has done since he was elected president on 11/9/16. This is just unbelievable stuff, right? I mean, I don't even know what to say. So accordingly, I won't say anything else. I'll just leave it there. I think that's enough for one day anyway. All right, later.